Welcome back to Naya Nomikou. If you've been with us for a while, you may remember Dawn, a woman who returned to her childhood home and found something strange in the nursery. She remembered things she had buried, and then she ran. Tonight, we continue her journey. This is Volume 2 of Dawn's story, The Chest at the Foot of the Crib, by Shadow Thread Stories. The road stayed empty in both directions. The asphalt swallowed the glow of a street lamp a quarter-mile back. Dawn kept walking, her arms locked around the creature's warmth, her boots dragging small clouds of dust off the shoulder. The sound from the tree line hadn't repeated. She told herself it was a possum or a branch settling under its own weight. Her body didn't believe her for a second. Her shoulders stayed up near her ears, her jaw clenched so hard her molars ached. Behind her, the house sat dark against the tree line. Its windows were blank. No porch light had been left burning to call her back toward it. She didn't turn around to check. Somewhere between the study door and the front door, she'd stopped being the kind of person who checked. Her legs kept carrying her forward on that decision alone. One boot went in front of the other. Gravel crunched under a rhythm that had nothing steady about it. Her hands still smelled like copper under the animal warmth radiating off the creature's skin. Every so often, her fingers twitched against its spine, like they were trying to remember what they'd been doing an hour ago, before any of this. The adrenaline that had carried her out of the study was starting to thin. Underneath it was something colder, shakier, the kind of shake that only ever shows up once the danger's already passed. She hadn't taken anything else from the house. Not her bag, still sitting by the front door, where she'd set it down an hour and a lifetime ago. Not her phone, not even her keys, which she only now realized were probably still in the ignition of a car she'd have to explain eventually. None of it felt like it belonged to the version of her walking down this road. She'd have to go back for all of it eventually. Not tonight. Somewhere out past the ditch, the crickets cut off all at once. They'd been going steady since she stepped outside. This kind of silence never happens on its own. It means something bigger than an insect just moved through the grass and reminded every smaller thing what it was afraid of. The creature shifted against her chest. Its head turned, slow and precise, towards the trees. Dawn stopped walking. "You know, something's over there," she said, and her voice came out smaller than she wanted. The creature never answered with words. It never had, but its small fingers tightened in the fabric of her sweater. The hum coming off its skin climbed half a register like a tuning fork finding its pitch. A shape detached itself from the dark between two oaks. Small, low to the ground at first, then rising as it stepped onto the gravel shoulder. A child, maybe 8 years old, barefoot, wearing a nightgown gone grey with wear. Her hair hung in a single flat braid. It looked like someone else had done it for her years ago and never redone it since. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. The girl's bare feet made no sound against the gravel. In that stretch of quiet, Dawn genuinely wondered if she'd conjured the whole shape of her out of nerves and moonlight. Somewhere on the road she couldn't see, a truck downshifted. Its headlights swept gold across the underside of the canopy for half a second. When the light passed, the girl was still there, exactly where she'd been, watching. Dawn's stomach dropped. "Hey," she said, and took a step forward. "Hey, are you—" The girl stood in the middle of the road with her chin tilted, watching Dawn the way a cat watches a door it already knows will open. "You have one too," the girl said. Her voice was flat, matter of fact. It was the voice of someone reciting something she'd been told to expect long before she ever saw it herself. Dawn's arms tightened around the creature without her telling them to. "One what?" The girl reached into the collar of her nightgown and drew out a second creature. It was smaller than Dawn's, its scales a duller grey, its limbs pulled up tight against its own body like a fist. It stayed rigid, gripping the girl's collarbone. Its blonde head angled toward Dawn's creature across the 10 feet of empty road between them. The two creatures reacted at the same moment. Dawn felt hers go taut against her ribs, every muscle beneath its dry skin locking at once. A low vibration built in its throat, one she felt more than she heard. A pressure against her sternum, like standing too close to a speaker. Across the road, the girl's creature answered in the same frequency. The girl's whole body swayed with it, her bare feet shifting on the gravel to keep her balance. "They know each other," Dawn said. "They're supposed to." The girl said it like a fact from a textbook. "Mine's older. His name is—" She stopped, frowned, the frown of someone reaching for a word that wasn't there. "He doesn't have one. Nobody gave him one." Dawn's throat tightened. "What's your name?" "Wren." "Wren. Who's taking care of you?" Wren's eyes flicked past Dawn's shoulder toward the house behind her, dark against the tree line, then back. "Nobody's taking care of me. I take care of him." She said it with a strange, hard pride. It was the pride of a much older person, describing a burden they'd stopped resenting a long time ago. "Where do you live?" Wren pointed down the road in the direction Dawn had been walking, toward Nothing Dawn could actually see yet. "There's a place. It's not far. They keep more of us there." Dawn's mind snagged on the word place, turning it over. "A house? Like this one? Bigger? Older? It used to be a school, I think, before it was ours." Wren said ours, with the same flat ownership she had used for the creature. It was like the building belonged to her, the way a bruise belongs to whoever's carrying it. "There's a barn out back where they used to keep animals. They keep us there now, mostly. The house is just for Miss A something and the ones who watch at night." The word more landed in Dawn's chest like a dropped stone. She thought of the ledger, the columns of numbers. She thought of the sentence at the bottom of the last page, written in ink still fresh enough to smell. She wasn't the only child taken. She'd read it as history. Wren was making it present tense. "Does yours have a name?" Wren asked, nodding at the shape pressed against Dawn's chest. Dawn hadn't thought about it. "No, I only found him tonight." "You'll want to give him one before Miss Say Something does. Has stick." Wren's mouth twisted. Something like humor tried to surface through the flatness of her voice. It didn't quite make it. "Mine used to be called 14. I renamed him when nobody was listening. I don't say it out loud where she can hear, so it still counts as mine." "How many?" Dawn asked. "I don't count anymore." Wren's creature shifted against her collarbone. She winced, a small, private wince, the kind you only noticed if you were looking for it. It was the wince of someone used to small pain, embarrassed to be caught reacting to it at all. "He doesn't like it when I talk to people. He gets loud." "Loud how?" "Loud like the whole house feels it. Like—" Wren's head turned toward the trees a half-second before the light actually swept across them, as if she'd felt it coming through her own body before it arrived. Before Wren could finish, a light swept across the tree line behind her. It was a handheld beam, jerking with the rhythm of someone walking fast. A voice followed it, a woman's voice, pitched low and even. It had the practiced calm of someone who'd said the same words too many times to mean them anymore. "Wren, come back to the house." Wren's shoulders dropped an inch, the specific drop of a kid, recognizing a routine she'd stopped fighting a long time ago. "That's Miss Say Something," she told Dawn quietly. "She feeds them. She feeds us too, but that's not really the job." "Wren? Now." The voice was closer. A flashlight beam broke through the tree trunks and swung wide across the road, catching Dawn full in the face. She threw a hand up against the glare. Beside her, the creature's grip shifted, its small fingers digging harder into her sweater. The hum in its throat dropped into something closer to a growl. The beam found Wren next, then Wren's creature, then went still. "Well," the woman said, stepping out onto the shoulder. 60-ish. Canvas coat, too heavy for the season, grey hair pulled back tight enough to stretch her temples. A flashlight in one hand, a loose coil of rope in the other, the kind meant for livestock. The casual way she held it turned Dawn's stomach worse than anything in the ledger. "You must be the Ellery girl. We wondered when you'd come find us, or when we'd find you." "I'm not looking for you," Dawn said. "No, you're looking for answers, and we happen to have the building most of them are stored in." The woman's eyes went to the creature against Dawn's chest, sizing it up the way you'd size up livestock at auction. Dawn recognized the look instantly. She'd grown up around exactly those auctions, back when sizing things up for sale had just been something adults did on Saturday mornings. "Yours came out of containment early. That's going to complicate your paperwork." "There's no paperwork," Dawn said. "There's a dead man in a study with his ribs torn open, and a girl standing barefoot on a road at midnight, and you're worried about complications?" "Complications are the only thing left to worry about once the dying's done. You can't undo the man in the study. You can still decide how far this goes tonight." "How far has it already gone for the other 10? Something flickered behind the woman's eyes, quickly buried under professional calm. "Not information I'm authorized to give a non-compliant subject's escort." "I'm not anyone's escort. I'm his—" Dawn stopped, surprised by her own certainty, and finished it anyway. "I'm his family now, whether your program authorized it or not." "Wren, house, now." The woman's mouth flattened, voice staying level. Wren didn't move. She looked at Dawn instead, something cracking open in her face. A naked, specific hunger, a child watching an adult decide whether to help her. "You said there's more of you," Dawn said, eyes fixed on Wren. "More kids? More of these?" 11, Wren said before the woman could stop her. 11 counting me. The woman's jaw tightened. She raised the flashlight, catching Dawn's eyes again. "Walk away from this, Miss Ellery. Your father kept quiet for 20 years. Cost him his life tonight, from what I can smell on your sleeve. I'd hate for it to cost you yours." Dawn's pulse hammered. The creature against her chest pulled tighter, humming at a pitch that made her back teeth ache. Across the road, Wren's creature answered it, and Wren staggered, catching herself against her own knees. "They're talking to each other," Dawn said. "Right now. You feel that?" "Every day. It's why the containment protocols exist. 2 of them together, unsupervised. That's exactly the scenario this facility was built to prevent." The woman stepped forward, rope loose in hand, voice dropping almost gentle. "Hand yours over. We sedate it. run the assessment, and you go home and grieve your father like a normal woman. Nobody else needs to know what he kept in that nursery. He's not grieving anything. I killed him myself, near enough, and I'm not handing you anything. Saying it out loud made it real in a way the act itself hadn't. She'd moved on instinct in that study. Muscle heat, her father's blood on the floorboards. Only now, saying it to a stranger in a canvas coat, did the weight of it actually land. The program doesn't run on your authorization, the woman said. It runs on containment math. 11 subjects, 11 handlers, one facility built to keep that math from becoming a headline. Tonight, you are a very large error in it. Good. I'd rather be an error than a number in your ledger. Something shifted in the woman's posture, small and precise, a recalculation. You'll learn to miss the ledger. Numbers don't run. Her calm slipped, sliding into something colder. The woman lifted the flashlight higher. Dawn understood, a half-second before it happened, that the light wasn't meant to blind her. It was a signal. 2 more beams switched on from the tree line, 30 feet apart, and started closing. Dawn did the math without meaning to. 30 feet closing fast. No clear route back to a car. She couldn't even remember parking. Whatever came next, it was happening on foot, alongside a child she had known for 4 minutes. Wren's creature shrieked, a high, thin sound like metal drawn across metal. It threw itself off her collarbone onto the road, joints clicking in that same eerie mechanical rhythm Dawn's had used to cross the study floor. It crossed straight past Wren and the woman both, moving towards Dawn's creature, low and fast, gravel skittering under its blunt limbs. Dawn's creature met it halfway. They collided and locked in the same motion, their limbs interlaced with a precision that looked almost tender, if you didn't know better. 2 small bodies pressed skin to skin in the middle of the road. They hummed in a frequency that made the air itself feel thick and charged, the same ionized weight her father's journal had described. Sparks of static jumped up visibly between their joined limbs, tiny blue threads snapping and flickering out against the asphalt. The ozone smell thickened enough to sting Dawn's eyes. Dawn felt it in her fillings. Wren pressed both hands over her ears and dropped to her knees. "Stop them!" the woman shouted, to no one in particular, and broke into a run toward the tangled shapes. Dawn didn't think. She crossed the 10 feet of road and grabbed Wren under the arms, hauling her up off the gravel. The girl's whole body was shaking, light as a bundle of kindling. "Can you run?" Wren nodded, wide-eyed, and grabbed a fistful of Dawn's sweater. Behind them, the 2 creatures broke apart in a single motion. Whatever had passed between them left both of them changed. Dawn's creature crouched lower against the asphalt than it ever had against her chest. Its head swiveled toward the approaching flashlights with a focus that had nothing hesitant in it. Wren's creature scrambled backward on all fours until it collided with the woman's shins, hard enough to knock her off balance. The woman went down onto one knee with a grunt. The flashlight skittered out of her hand and rolled to a stop against the curb. Its beam pointed uselessly at the sky. The rope fell loose from her other hand, landing in a slack coil on the asphalt. Wren's creature was still scrambling for footing on the gravel when a second set of hands closed over it. One of the flanking flashlight bearers had cut the distance fast, dropping into a crouch and pinning the creature flat with a gloved forearm across its back. It thrashed once, joints clicking in a rapid, panicked rhythm. Then it went rigid under the grip, the fight bleeding out of it all at once. "Now," Dawn said, and pulled Wren toward the tree line on the opposite side of the road, away from the approaching lights. Her own creature scrambled after them low to the ground, matching her stride the way something feral matches a run it's decided to join. The drainage ditch along the shoulder caught Dawn's ankle before she saw it, dropping her a half step lower than she'd braced for. Wren's weight very nearly took them both down into the culvert. She hauled the girl level again, gravel and wet leaves sliding under both their feet. Then they were past it, and into the tree line proper, branches raking at Dawn's forearms hard enough to leave thin stinging lines she wouldn't register until later. Behind them, someone shouted a name that wasn't Wren's. The shout dissolved into the general noise of people moving fast through underbrush that didn't know how to be quiet. They didn't stop until the shouting behind them had thinned into distance. Not until the trees closed overhead and the road was nothing but a pale seam through the dark below. Twice they stopped to listen, crouched low against tree trunks, their breath held, waiting to hear which direction the surge had gone. Both times the shouting scattered wider instead of closing in. Voices called to each other across distances that kept growing. Both times Dawn used the pause to reposition Wren's grip on her hand before pulling her onward again. These woods carried an engineered feel Dawn couldn't place at first. She noticed the flattened paths, too straight to be deer trails, then a flag of white tape zip-tied around a low branch. She understood, with a fresh drop in her stomach, that other people had run through here before her. More than once. Recently enough that the ground still remembered the shape of it. Someone had shaped it. The same roots, flattened over and over until they read as trails. It funneled anyone running blind straight back toward the road instead of away from it. Wren's bare feet had gone from silent to uneven, a hitch in every third or fourth step where a root or a stone found her. By the time they slowed, she was leaving faint, dark prints behind her on the leaf litter. She didn't mention it. Wren's breathing rasped in short, ragged bursts, the kind she was clearly practiced at hiding. Dawn realized, holding the girl's hand tight enough to hurt them both, that she had no idea where they were going. She only knew it wasn't back. Behind them, from somewhere near the road, Wren's creature let out one more sound, lower than the shriek before it, almost mournful. Nothing answered it. Dawn felt her own creature go rigid at the sound. Its hum rose into something that vibrated against her sternum like a struck bell. Whatever had passed between the two creatures on the road was still live, paused mid-current. It hummed under the silence, like a wire, still carrying current through a pinch point. "They took him," Wren said very quietly into the dark. "They always take the ones that get loud." "Where do they take them?" Wren shrugged, the motion small and automatic. It was the shrug of someone who stopped wandering a long time ago. "Me say something calls it reassignment. Nobody explains what that word actually means afterward. The ones who come back are different people wearing the same face. The ones who don't come back just turn into an empty cot in the barn." "How long have you been counting cots?" "Since I learned to count." Wren said it plainly, the way she'd said everything else tonight, like grief was just another fact she'd filed away between the ones about feeding schedules and moon cycles. For just a second, though, her chin dropped and her shoulders curled inward. The practiced flatness slipped long enough to show the child underneath it. Then she straightened again and kept walking like nothing had happened. Dawn looked down at the girl's face, pale in the scraps of moonlight coming through the canopy. She understood, the certainty landing like a hand closing around her wrist, that whatever building Wren had come from was only the beginning of this. It was probably the same address as the envelope her father had left open on the entry table, the one she still hadn't read. She thought of it sitting there on the entry table, torn open and abandoned mid-reading. Her father had a habit of starting things he never let himself finish. Whatever address was inside that envelope, it had waited 20 years for her to find it. It could wait the rest of the walk. She tightened her grip on Wren's hand and kept walking. The trees thinned ahead of them, a paler gap opening between the trunks, and for one bright, stupid second, Dawn let herself believe it meant they'd made it. Then she saw what the gap actually was. 3 sets of headlights sat parked in a loose crescent at the edge of a field she didn't recognize, engines idling, doors already standing open, waiting. Nobody was rushing toward them. Nobody needed to. Someone had known exactly which direction these trees would spit a person out, and had simply set up chairs for the arrival. Wren's hand went rigid inside hers. Behind them, back on the road, an engine caught and turned over. Somewhere above the canopy, a second sound started up, higher and steadier, a mechanical whine that had no business belonging to a forest this quiet a minute ago. Dawn didn't stop walking. She didn't know yet whether that was courage or just her body refusing to catch up with what her eyes had already told her. And there wasn't time left to find out which. And this was Volume 2 of Dawn's story. If you haven't heard Volume 1, I encourage you to start there. There's a link in the description. Until next time.